Hey, alright, shalom, shalom. I want to start off by getting all glory, honor, praise, and fear to Father YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, BAHASHAM, QADASH. I think the bars, apostles, and elders, great millstone who do well. This brother could come, member of the Great Millstone Atlanta Camp. I'm back again today with my video. This video, which I was thinking about this. I was going into Second Chronicles, and it's speaking about Obed the prophet. I was like, no, really. I was making a joke to myself. I was like, everyone want to be Paul or like, an apostles or like or people don't say I want to be Agabus. That's really popped in my mind because like Obed the prophet, the first thing popped in my mind was Agabus. So I was like, words were I would start making a series about lesser known prophets within the scriptures that pop out. You know, because there's a lot of lesser prophets that just don't get mentioned. Bros don't really make videos on it. So I was like, fuck it. I guess the spirit's on me to bring out further information on this edification. Because Agabus isn't mentioned too. He's not mentioned in the book of Acts, once, I believe. As well as, apparently, I didn't know this, he was part of the original 70 disciples of Yahushua. So I have this Wikipedia. I also have something on ChatGPT. So Agabus is a prophet mentioned in the New Testament of the Bible. He appears in the Acts of the Apostles, and is considered one of the early Christian prophets in the first century church. Here's what we know about him. In Acts 11:27, which I will read aloud. This is the book of Acts 11, verse 27. And it reads, Then Barnabas, sorry, 24, then departed Barnabas to Tarshish to seek Paul. Tarshish is Turkey, modern Turkey. So sorry, Jack's all over the place. So when he had found him, he brought him out to Antioch, and it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves in the church and taught much people, and disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. And the backstory and why that, because there was heavy worship on the god Serapis, fake god Serapis Christus, and to Ishtar, okay, which Serapis Christus was put up by Ptolemy in Memphis, Egypt. Okay, but there was heavy worship of that god in the area of Antioch. Hence why they were called them Christians, or Mashiachim, which be what the anointed ones. So, and also, if you read 26, think about one of the apostles moving from church to church. Like, for instance, the other apostle, Ariana, he's down here in Atlanta, but previously, I believe he was in Memphis and he was in LA, so the apostle moved around, and Paul was doing the same thing as he's going to these churches. But continue on going, 27, and in these days came the prophet from Jerusalem unto Antioch, and there stood up one named Agabus, and signified by the Spirit that there should be a great dearth or famine throughout all the land, and which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. This is real history. Once again, this happened in 47 AD. Once again, just bringing right to, I guess, a minor prophet, right? Because I haven't seen bros making videos like Agabus, but best believe Agabus is out there and he's making videos. Why? Because everything I got like on 1 Corinthians 14:32. No, it's not. It's on 1 Corinthians 14. 14, 22. It says, and the spirit of prophets are subject unto the prophets. And that word prophet there is G4396, prophetess, a foreteller, a poet, like his righteous in our song, right? And Parathon is not after that, this modern day Roman Empire would fall into the hands of who the word ignorant or Jews calls them as YAHAWASHI. Alright, so continue on going, it says, Acts 11, verse 28, that says, and there stood up one of them named Agabus, which the word Agabus means grasshopper, okay? And signified by the Spirit that there should be a great dearth, and famine throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. Now it says, biblical mentions of Agabus is Acts 11 and 27 to 30. It says, during the ministry of apostles in Antioch, Agabus prophesied a great famine that was spread throughout the Roman world. This famine is believed to have occurred during the reign of Emperor Claudius, AD 41 to 54. So I have 47 AD in my notes, something like that. So I'm in between there, you know. It says, the church of Antioch sent aid to the believers in Judea in response to this prophecy. So this is a big thing. And once again, okay, remember, there's certain plagues that will befall this modern day Rome. So as we go through this time, best believe Agabus is he's prophesying about a great dearth here in Babylon, which other prophets are, of course, you know what I'm saying? Because scriptures say what they're going to be what? Certain things on the earth that will happen. One being a famine, but Ezekiel the fourth chapter goes saying that Jacob be eaten food by measure during what this besiegement that's about to take place upon Jerusalem. Okay, Jerusalem being a people before it took place. You still call blacks, Hispanic, and Americans. You make up the children of the Heavenly Father. Okay, Israelites, as they are called in the Bible, right? Which you so-called Negroes, okay, Levites, and West Indians, you would be known as the tribes of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi. Okay, Northern Kingdom would be so-called Spanish and Throughout Israel spoken. So it's a spiritual thing. I heard that Romans 8:16, right? So the second occurrence of the prophet Agabus would be written in Acts 21 and 10. So let's read that. You Acts 21 verse 10. And it reads, and there tarried there many days, and there came down from Jerusalem a certain prophet named Agabus to them. So Agabus is back. First Corinthians 15:32, best believe he is there. If he is a prophet in the scriptures, he has to come. This, we're talking about. There's a video of a pastor, he says, you don't think the Lord can send his prophets back to us, wickedest king of earth, wicked here upon the planet earth? Come on now. And when he was come unto us, he took Paul's girdle and bound, because this is a future prophecy regarding Paul, right? And bound his hands and feet and said, thus saith the Holy Spirit, so shall the Jews of Jerusalem bind the man that owneth this girdle, and shall deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles, which the Gentiles represent the Romans, not the actual Israel, right? It says, the Jews were going to use the law to kill Paul. And that's exactly what they did. As Paul, remember, Paul's like, man, I don't want to get, I don't want to be in a court in fucking Judea, man. But fuck Jake, man. Okay, so throw me up to the Romans. The Jake is fucking wicked, bro. You got the high priest, okay, basically trying to kill the apostles. And the same thing is going to happen now. You have certain men within the word, in these different camps, man. They already signed deals with Esau, so what do you think they're going to do? Bring forth certain lies, okay, but the men actually teaching the truth and the sincerity. Keep that in mind. Okay, it says, event Agabus came back from Judea to prophesy for his arrest. He took Paul's belt, bound his own hands and feet, and said, the Holy Spirit said, in this way the Jewish leaders, such as a Jewish person, or Jewish means like Judah. So, leaders in Jerusalem will bind the owners of this belt and will hand him over to the Gentiles. This prophecy was fulfilled when Paul was arrested in Jerusalem and later handed over to the Roman authorities. Okay. So that's two prophecies made by Agabus, right? That came to fruition. Key traits and significance. Gift of prophecy. Agabus is described as a prophet who received a message from the Holy Spirit. A respected figure, his words were taken seriously by the early Christian community. This is early church royalty exemplifies the function of prophets in the New Testament, not just foretelling the future, but guiding the church through divine insight. And the same thing is going on now, right? We are guided, okay, here, as I believe it's Peter said, to a church in Babylon. See? So, we're guided through the Holy Spirit. Through the men or leaders of the Heavenly Father that have set up here upon earth. These extra biblical traditions, not canonical. So some Christian tradition consider him one of the 70 prophets or 70 disciples sent by Yahushua with 10, but this is not confirmed in scripture. Some accounts suggest he let him down as a martyr, which probably just through perfecting the persecution upon Christians, right? And that happened during Nero. So if he's maybe early 30s during times, then kind of old he is given age, but remember, Lord brings in men when they're young. Yahushua with the seed of 33 AD. So he probably, maybe, I don't know, it's like 80, 70, maybe, because he was probably originally 70. Let's see. What year did Luke 10 chapter take place? Luke chapter 10 take place. This is probably a younger man who moved to Turkey. I mean, 29 to 30 AD, yeah, because so age after that makes sense. Okay, so probably, I mean, um, we understand that this is first of ideas when that thing happened, so 10 years, and then another, what, 30, so about 70, 80, during his age, just so putting it out there. Um, murder, so, he died around that age, 67, some context through details or spurs and not historically verified. So, he could have died of being murdered, or he didn't, that's not saying, but we can come to a certain conclusion if there's great persecution in the church, not putting Christians to death, which would be Israelites, okay, following YAHAWASHI at the time, YAHAWASHI being the true name of the Heavenly Father's Son, YAHAWAH being the true name of the Higher of Israel, okay, then, that's like, Agabus was a prophet in the early Christian church, known for foretelling a famine and warning Paul of his coming arrest. His actions illustrate how prophecy operated in the New Testament church as both a spiritual gift and a practical tool for guiding the community. We have to go about Agabus and but I'm going to go to this Wikipedia and grab a little more information about the prophet Agabus. So Agabus, it says, was an early foreign Christian from Syria mentioned in the Act of the Apostles as a prophet. He traditionally remembered as one of the 70 disciples of the time. That's like, that's the long declared on Antioch. That's his name. The name Agabus started from the Aramaic Haga, meaning grasshopper. Haga, Hadad, which may have been a nickname or synonym. To be a grasshopper is like considered very wise and so, according to the extra biblical tradition, Agabus appears to have been a resident of Jerusalem. He is said to have been one of the 70 disciples mentioned in the Gospel, commissioned to preach the gospel. It is said that Agabus was with the 12 apostles in the upper room of the day of Pentecost. Okay, according to that's a big man in the spirit, right? He's not no little man. Agabus is back, and he's pretty has a church or something, but not really speaks about Agabus. So I was put some attention to his name and how to be edifying. But I want to see how bad was the famine during the time of Claudius. A famine during the reign of Emperor Claudius 49 to 54 AD, which the prophet Agabus predicted in Acts 11:27 to 30, was historically significant and quite serious. The Bible and written records also clear some details. Here's what we know. Here's what we know. Here's what we know from his biblical, historical, and archaeological sources. So it says historical sources Josephus and the Roman record. Josephus, Jewish historian in the Antiquity of the Jews, book 20, chapter 2. Josephus mentioned the great famine in Judea during the time of Queen Helena of Abedin, a rural convert to Judaism who came to Jerusalem. You can't really convert to Judaism. Okay? It's a bird-like thing according to Numbers 1:18. You're not born in Israel, you're born in fucking whatever. Rest of the nations are there. Helena sent large amounts of grain and fish from Egypt to Cyprus to relieve the hunger in Jerusalem. Josephus describes people dying in the streets and a severe shortage of food. This time likely occurred around 47 to 48 AD. It says Suetonius and Tacitus, Roman historians. Roman records mention several famines across the empire during Claudius' reign. Suetonius wrote that Claudius had to deal with a growing shortage of rain. Tacitus confirmed that there are times of scarcity and unrest over food prices, and something like everywhere today. The severity is great. Not the impact, the famine appeared to have hit Jerusalem, Judea, partially hard. Possibly due to poor harvest or emotional/political instability. Relief from Antioch and Queen Helena implies widespread suffering, especially among the poor in the outer Roman world. Famines in ancient times were often regional rather than truly empire-wide. However, since Rome relied heavily on grain and Persian Egypt and North Africa, any distribution could affect multiple regions, including today. Right matter of famine. Validate Agabus is properly a prophetic gift in the eyes of the early churches, and it did. Everything right is faithfully true. Encouraged solidarity among early Christians, Gentile believers in Antioch, Jewish believers in Jerusalem. It's actually supposed to going on, and that's the same thing's going to happen now. That's what's going to bring the masses up. Just like before, they're going back on the right. Jake has a seat. That's who it is. Jake. It says time frame, likely between 46 and 48 AD during Claudius' reign, severe and Judea people starving outside a needed skilled force report. And just remember in the book of Matthew, chapter about the daughter with funds and she wasn't sent food to Judea because of the famine. You know, it says, I'm going to jump to Exodus 29. Then the disciples of every man according to his ability determined to send relief unto the brothers of Judea, because that is a grain famine. See, which also they did and sent it to the elders by hands of Paul and Barnabas. So Barnabas supported Syracuse. So, man, you see, these scriptures were true. You know? So there was actually two families of Hadron Claudius. So, this is some good information right here. You know? So very good information. Since Jerusalem said Agabus went to many countries teaching with great many, this moved the Jews to Jerusalem to arrest him and torture him by beating him severely and putting a rope around his neck, and he was dragged out into the city and stoned to death. Jesuit theologian Anthony Moss says he was martyred at Antioch. So, these are heavy things, okay, and these are parts that happen, and we can read about it and connect it with biblical history. So that was for sure one, the Quran, HALAL, BAHASHAM, RAWCHAA,